The sound of shattering crystal cut through the candlelit silence. Envoy Daniel of the Moktai dropped the glass as if it had burned him across the long table. Ambassador Charles raised a single eyebrow and took another sip from his own glass. Just minutes earlier, the dinner had been a diplomatic dance. Charles poured a deep ruby red into Daniel's glass and raised his own in toast.
To understanding between our peoples. This is a 2031 Brunello, a celebrated earth wine.
My kind does not drink fermented liquids, but for diplomacy, I will make an exception.
He brought the glass to his thin lips and sipped. The translator implant crackled instantly. An electronic whine cut through his skull. Sparks burst from the implant, and his neural interface died. His vision tore apart. The candlelit hull dissolved into red-black swirls. Across the table, Charles's face became a grinning predator. Daniel screamed. He shoved backward, his armor screeching against stone. Medics burst in. Charles set down his glass, expressionless, as the envoy convulsed on the floor. In a sterile medical bay, Moktai doctors analyzed the envoy's blood. The toxin was ethanol, a simple molecule that had crashed Daniel's neural implant like a viral attack. The medical report flickered to life. Ethanol classified as Tier -4 cognitive weapon. Immediate surrender of all Earth fermentation facilities demanded. High Commander Vorik read the report in his war room. His glowing red eyes narrowed to slits.
They tried to assassinate our envoy with a drink. They will learn what it costs to poison a Moktai.
Vorik opened a direct channel to Earth. Ambassador Charles's face appeared on the hologram, as unreadable as stone.
Ambassador, your species has used a chemical weapon against us. You have 24 hours to dismantle all wine production. If you refuse, we will strike Bordeaux, Napa, and Mendoza.
You want me to destroy Earth's vineyards?
Surrender the facilities, or our bombers will turn them to glass. The choice is yours.
I will convey your message to my government, but you should know, wineries have a way of fighting back.
The channel went dark. Vorik ordered his bombers to final approach. On Earth, Ambassador Charles stood at his window, watching the stars already composing a bitter reply. Charles did not send a formal protest. He walked into the sunlit entrance of Earth's diplomatic headquarters.
If they want to destroy our vineyards, they should taste the soil first.
He placed the bottles into a wicker basket, one by one. Bordeaux, Napa, Mendoza. The very regions Vorik had condemned. He took up a pen and wrote on cream-colored paper. His hand never wavered. The note folded among the bottles read, "Please don't bomb the wineries. They are louder than they look."
Louder than they look? This is not a plea. It's a prophecy.
The basket was sealed and given to a diplomatic courier. By nightfall, it was aboard the Moktai flagship.
The human's response is a basket of bottles. Scan it for poison.
Scanners probed every bottle. No explosives, no chemical agents, only fermented grape juice and a cryptic note.
A pathetic jest. Burn the letter. Keep the basket for now. Launch the bombers in 6 hours. The humans will weep over their crushed vines.
Vorik's orders echoed across the flagship. Bomber wings powered up, their targeting computers initializing on the threatened wine regions.
I want a second scan. Something about this human gift feels too quiet.
The second scan returned the same result. Ethanol, tannins, water. Not a single explosive molecule. Nothing the Empire classified as a threat.
Then it is merely a fool's gesture. Launch countdown proceeds. Prepare the main batteries.
On Earth, Charles watched the clock tick down. He pulled up the vineyard feeds one by one, a silent witness to what was about to be burned. Bordeaux, ancient vines, twisted and gnarled, stretched under a cold moon. The chateau windows reflected starlight like closed eyes. Napa Valley. Golden hills rolled away into darkness. The air hung heavy with the scent of ripening fruit and dry earth. Mendoza. High desert vines stood at the foot of the Andes. The mountains a jagged wall that dared anyone to break them.
They're about to learn that vines have deep roots And this soil remembers everything.
Forik's voice cut through the fleet. Begin final targeting solutions. The bombers locked coordinates. No surrender came from Earth. 6 decks beneath the bridge. A junior engineer, crouched beside an air filtration unit. A pale green film was spreading across the inner tubing. The biofilm had not been there during the previous maintenance cycle. It shimmered faintly, alive. He logged the anomaly and sent a sample to medical. Across the ship, 2 gunners in the bow section reported mild vertigo. The examining medic attributed it to elevated stress. Pre-combat nerves were common, and the fleet was hours from a planetary bombardment. No alarm was raised. The film continued to spread, feeding on the ship's own humidified atmosphere. On the bridge, Vorik reviewed the bombardment sequence. His officers reported all systems nominal. Deep in the ship, the yeast colony thickened. It converted sugar traces in the recycled air into ethanol vapor, too faint for sensors to detect. The first symptom was a slight, unexplained euphoria among the lower deck maintenance crew. They laughed more easily, their movements looser. No one connected it to the wine bottles sitting in the diplomatic storage.
Target solutions confirmed. Bomber wings, stand by.
Within 2 hours, identical biofilms appeared on 4 more ships. The green growth was no longer an isolated anomaly. The crews began to show symptoms. A gunner on the cruiser Vengeance slurred a targeting correction. His commander assumed fatigue. By the mid-shift, laughter echoed through the maintenance corridors. Someone had started singing an old nest chant. The science officer reported a spreading contamination. Several decks showed impaired cognition, slurred speech, sluggish motor control.
Viral, impossible. Our biofilters are impervious to known pathogens. Run a full spectrum analysis.
The analysis came back blank. No known virus, no bacterial signature, just an unrecognized eukaryotic organism. Vorik ordered immediate quarantine. All ships sealed their bulkheads, but the organism was already exhaled into the shared air. On the flagship, the gunnery officer vomited into his helmet, a thin pink vapor rising from the mess. Vorik gripped his command chair. The bombers were primed, but their launch crews were stumbling.
We are under attack. Find the source, now.
The biochemist isolated the organism under magnification, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, earth yeast. It was fermenting the ship's atmosphere, turning sugar into ethanol. The corks. Microscopic yeast spores had been embedded in the wine bottle corks. Now, they were everywhere.
The human gift. It was a trap all along. The note, the bottles, all a weapon we carried aboard ourselves.
He grabbed a bottle and hurled it against the wall. Red wine and glass burst across the deck plates. But the yeast was already beyond the basket. It had seeded every biofilter, every deck vent, the crew's own lung tissue. Incinerators flashed. The gift basket, and all bottles turned to ash. But the damage was done. The yeast thrived on the heat. It bloomed. The flagship's air turned thick with pink vapor, unbreathable.
Launch status. Why do my bombers not respond? I will tear that human apart with my own hands.
No bombers rose. Across the fleet, gun crews lay slumped in their harnesses, eyes open but unseeing. In his centuries of command, Vorik had never faced an enemy like this. One that made his empire drunk and helpless. A priority transmission from Earth arrived. Ambassador Charles's voice, calm as ever, filled the flagship's command. Vorik listened. His breathing labored in the pink haze. The human's words were measured, almost gentle. High Commander, your bombers are not necessary. The wineries are open for tourism, but if you harm a single vine, the yeast becomes a permanent feature of your ships. I offer a cure, a benign phage that halts the fermentation. In return, Earth demands a binding peace treaty, an unrestricted trade of our wines.
You demand we purchase the very poison you used against us? This is humiliation.
You called it a weapon first. I am simply asking you to buy it, peacefully.
Vorik saw his crew slumping further. The yeast was now excreting ethanol at a rate their filters could not match.
I could burn them all from orbit, but my fleet would be dead before the missiles landed. Send the cure. I will. Discuss terms.
Charles smiled, a small, knowing curve. He had not won a battle. He had rewritten the terms of what a battle could be. Vorik slammed his palm on the launch override. His fingers felt distant, wrapped in fog. The bomber's flight crews could not answer. Emergency klaxons bleated through the pink haze. A gunner had fallen out of his harness and was whispering to his dead mother.
All bombers, execute strike on the ground coordinates. Someone on this fleet must still be capable of pressing a trigger.
The tactical net registered his command. No confirmation came. The launch computers sat waiting for a crew that had forgotten how to aim. He retreated to his quarters, found the one intact bottle, and threw it against the wall with a howl.
You have poisoned my warriors and made the Dominion a joke. I will remember this, human.
The bottle shattered against the bulkhead. Red wine arced through the air and pooled at his feet. But the yeast was already inside every man, every wall.
If I refuse his terms, we die slowly in this cloud. If I accept, I am the commander who surrendered to a vineyard.
He opened the channel. The human's face appeared, that same infuriating calm. Behind him, Earth's blue sphere hung like a watching eye.
Ambassador Charles, I am prepared to receive your terms.
On the holographic screen, Charles leaned forward. His voice carried the patience of a man who had waited centuries for this moment.
The organism is an earth yeast, harmless to us. To your neurobiology, the ethanol it makes is a paralytic. We have a phage that kills it. My terms. Absolute peace, no military in the Sol system, and our wine becomes your primary luxury import, with no tariffs.
You would make every Moktai soldier a drunkard and call it trade.
You came with bombs. I offer a glass. Choose.
Behind Vorik, a gunner toppled from his harness. The pink vapor coiled around the bridge like a living thing.
Send the phage, now.
Charles nodded. Phage canisters launched from Earth, piercing the atmosphere toward the paralyzed fleet. The phage consumed the yeast. Biofilters whirred back to life. The haze lifted, leaving crews drenched in cold sweat. Vorik stood alone, the empty gift basket at his feet. He had lost more than a battle. He had lost the right to call humans primitive. As the phage coursed through the fleet's veins, the pink haze thinned and broke. Crewmen gasped, blinking as if waking from a fever dream. On the flagship, Vorik stood motionless, the empty basket at his feet. He had been beaten by a drink.
Signal all ships. Abort the bombardment. Set course back to Dominion space. We have a treaty to honor.
On Earth, Charles watched the fleet icons retreat on his display. Then he turned to a different screen. The cargo manifests for the first official wine shipment, wooden crates, stamped with the Earth logo, and wine were loaded onto a cargo vessel in a hangar. The first export to an alien market.
The trade agreement is live. The Moktai have already placed a bulk order for Bordeaux.
In a Moktai hangar, a high officer received a similar notice. His face was stone, but his hands trembled as he accepted the import license for Earth wine.
They have turned our defeat into a market. We will drink their poison in our own homes.
The cargo ship rose from Earth, engines glowing, and punched into hyperspace, carrying Earth's Maldus conquest to the stars. In his silent office, Charles poured himself a glass of the same Brunello. He raised it to the departing fleet, a toast to louder than they look. On the Moktai homeworld, official broadcasts called the humans cowards who used a biochemical agent against a diplomatic mission. But leaked medical files painted a different picture. The crew had not suffered. They had laughed. They had sung. One medical log read, "During contamination, I felt a peace I have not known since the nest. I wish it had not ended." A black market erupted. Bottles from a single intact case sold for more than a starfighter. Civilians began seeking the 6-hour hallucination. The forbidden fruit was suddenly sweeter than any propaganda. Outside the High Council chambers, citizens gathered with electronic signs. They demanded access to Earth wine. A child pressed her face to a shop window, staring at a confiscated bottle. Her eyes glowed with want. The Moktai government convened in secret. They had surrendered to Earth, but now they were losing to their own people.
I stopped the bombs, but I could not stop this. The humans have won in a way no fleet could counter.
The empire that once trembled at Vineyards now faced a rebellious public, choosing to drink the very weapon they feared. Envoy Daniel opened his eyes. His implant was dead, but the world was quiet. No more swirling red-black. A medic told him the wine was now a legal import. His hallucination had sparked a trade war that Earth won.
Get me Ambassador Charles. Now.
The call connected. Charles's calm face appeared, the same as that night.
You knew that drop would destroy my implant. You used me as a biological trigger.
I offered you a glass of wine. Your biology did the rest. The war was your High Commander's choice.
He is right, but I saw his face become a monster. My own mind turned against me. I need to understand, not just the politics, the experience. Meet me where it happened.
The villa in Tuscany. I'll have a different vintage ready.
Daniel ended the call. He stared at the empty medical bay, knowing the next glass would be his choice alone. The villa's cypress trees still lined the drive. But this time Daniel walked up alone, his armor removed.
Welcome back. I thought we'd walk the vines before we sit.
They walked between the rows. Charles reached out and twisted a cluster of grapes off the vine.
This vine is 90 years old. It was planted before we had spaceflight. Wine is older than all our wars. We weaponized yeast only after Vorik threatened to burn all this. I will not apologize for defending soil that our ancestors bled into.
And the dose that broke my mind.
That was a mistake. Your body can't process ethanol. Today, I have a different vintage, and if you choose to taste, your implant stays offline.
He isn't hiding what he did. He's inviting me to choose. No one in my empire ever gave me that.
Back at the table, Charles poured a pale ruby wine into 2 glasses. No ceremony, just the sound of liquid against crystal. Daniel reached for the glass. His 4 fingers trembled, but they closed. He lifted the glass to his thin lips and drank. The liquid spread a gentle heat down his throat, not a crash. No implant wine, no red-black swirls. Only a quiet buzz that softened the hard edges of the room.
This is what you meant. All this time, your people drank this.
Charles watched, unsmiling but eyes bright. This was the moment the war truly ended.
I was a weapon test, but now I am also free.
Daniel set the glass down. Then he laughed. A raw, unexpected noise that echoed across the candlelit hall.
My empire calls this tier -4. I call it the first honest thing I have tasted.
To honesty, then.
They clinked glasses. The sound was small, but it carried through the silent villa.
I want more. Not just the wine, the truth you hid in that bottle.
Daniel returned to the Moktai capital with a single bottle and a proposal.
I petition to become the first licensed importer of Earth wine. The trade is inevitable. I can ensure quality control.
The council was silent. Vorik's knuckles whitened on the armrest, but his voice was defeated.
Approve the license. The envoy has already tasted the poison. Let him sell it.
Within days, a storefront appeared on the high street. A simple sign, Daniel's Earth Wines. Inside, bottles from Bordeaux, Napa, and Mendoza lined the shelves, each a small diplomatic victory. The first customers came hesitantly, reading labels with confused red eyes. A young Moktai pressed her face to the glass, her red eyes wide. Daniel uncorked a bottle and poured a sample. The aroma alone made a passerby stop.
This is what they tried to ban. Taste for yourself.
A decade later, Earth wine was the Dominion's primary luxury import. The government's attempts to restrict it had collapsed under public demand. In a quiet room, former High Commander Vorik sat before a flickering news feed. The headline celebrated record wine sales.
They begged for this poison. My soldiers stumbled, but my people chose to drown in it.
His own desk held a single bottle of Bordeaux, unopened. A gift from Envoy Daniel, now the wealthiest importer in the Dominion. Across the capital, wine bars had become civic institutions. Moktai of every rank gathered to sip and talk. The government could not ban what its own enforcers drank. The military itself received an annual allocation. The empire that once sent 400 warships to burn Vineyards now paid Earth in hard credits to keep the bottles coming. Earth's mildest substance had conquered without a single casualty after the phage, and in his silent room, Vorik reached out, not to smash the bottle, but to touch the glass, tracing the Earth script with a withered finger. He did not open it. Not yet. But the bottle remained. The Tuscan villa still smelled of old stone and drying grapes. Daniel entered alone, no armor, no escort. The banquet hall was empty, but for a single table, set for one. Candles flickered against the navy walls. He took the seat where Charles once sat. A bottle of 2031. Brunello waited, already uncorked. Daniel poured a glass with his own four-fingered hand. The wine curled red into the crystal. He raised the glass and sipped. No red-black swirl, no screaming implant. Only a quiet, familiar warmth.
The empire I served would have burned this place for a bottle. Now it pays for thousands.
He set the glass down and smiled, a small, knowing curve that echoed a human he once feared. He recalled the night this room fell into chaos, his mind collapsing into red terror.
The enemy became a friend. The weapon became a vintage. I was the first to taste, and the first to change.
Daniel raised his glass to the empty hall, a toast to those louder than they look. Charles had agreed to only one interview, years after retiring. He sat in his study, a single bottle of Brunello on the desk. The interviewer asked about the yeast. Charles leaned forward, hands calm.
It was never designed as a weapon. A team of viticulturists saw a way to turn our love of wine into a defense.
A holographic map highlighted the wine regions. Charles pointed to the dots.
We hoped the yeast would never be used. But when Vorik targeted our soil, we had to choose between surrender and a very strange battle.
He paused, touching the stem of a grapevine that now grew in a pot by his window.
Wine was always meant to be shared. We just had to teach the galaxy that the hard way.
The interview would later be cited as humanity's most honest admission of using pleasure as a weapon and a bridge.
We never fired a shot after that. Instead, we opened 1,000 bottles. I think that counts for something.
The camera pulled back as Charles poured himself a glass. The secret was out, and it tasted like redemption. In Bordeaux, workers moved through the rows at dawn, filling crates with clusters of sun-warmed grapes. At a traditional winery, bare feet crushed the harvest in oak vats, laughter rising with the juice. Cargo ships queued at orbital stations, their holds stacked with wooden crates stamped Earth Wine. A Moktai trade delegate formally accepted the shipment at the Dominion's main port. In the capital's wine bars, Moktai citizens clinked glasses of Bordeaux, their red eyes bright with pleasure. A young Moktai sommelier swirled a glass and recited its origin. Napa Valley, 2038, notes of black cherry end. Liberation. Earth's vineyards had never been more profitable or more protected than now. Watched over by a client empire, the Dominion imported 90% of Earth's premium wine. The feared tier negative 4 substance had become their primary luxury. The phrase louder than they look entered both languages. It meant hidden strength, slow power, a vintage that could topple empires. Under the Tuscan sun, new vines grew from old soil, and the galaxy drank. The same villa, the same long table, but the chairs were filled by 2 old friends, not 2 wary diplomats.
Another year, another vintage. You still haven't learned to refuse my Brunello.
It is still classified as a tier negative 4 weapon. Drinking it with you is the most dangerous thing I do.
Only to tyrants, Daniel. Only to tyrants.
They raised their glasses. The 2031 Brunello caught the candlelight, deep as old blood. They drank. The quiet warmth passed between them, a language neither translator could ever carry. It had never been about the wine. Not really. It was about proving that the softest things could hold the hardest truths. Outside the villa, the Tuscan night settled over the vineyard, fireflies tracing silent paths between the vines. A human and a Moktai, once enemies, now bound by a vine. The Empire still trembled at Vineyards, but now with thirst, the camera lifted from the candlelit window. Rising above the ancient stone and cypress trees, it swept over the vineyard, rows of vines stretching away into the Tuscan dark. Higher still, the valley became a patchwork of earth and moonlight, and then the curve of the planet emerged. Earth glowed below, a blue pearl strung with lights across its continents. Around it, a quiet constellation of cargo ships moved, carrying millions of bottles to distant stars. A single cargo ship ignited its drive and vanished into hyperspace, bound for the capital world that had once threatened to burn it all. Somewhere in the black, a Moktai vessel passed, its holds fragrant with the same red liquid that once felled a fleet. The galaxy had learned a strange truth. The most dangerous weapon in the universe was a glass of red and a good vintage. From the ground, it looked like progress. From space, it looked like a vineyard stretching between worlds. And in the villa, two glasses clinked again, the sound swallowed by the stars.